Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon with you here on Thursday, February 10th. We've got a lot going on here. This is actually our second podcast in as many days because we have our UCF softball preview that Eric Lopez popped up earlier this week. And this podcast will be covering pretty much everything else. Lots of basketball to talk about as well. And yeah, a couple things to clean up on the other end for tennis and track and field. But we want to talk. This is going to be our basketball show here for the primary, for the most part. And joining me, actually, this is pretty cool. Joining me from Los Angeles, where he is actually covering the Super Bowl, not for us, obviously, but pulling double duty. The student of the game himself, Kyle Nash, is here. What is up? How is the weather in LA? How is the Super Bowl? What's going on, man?
So first of all, I guess this would be night class for me, since I'm out west, right? Or early morning class. I don't know. But,
yeah, it's not. Yeah, we're recording this at like noon Eastern, but it's 9 o'clock in the morning out where you are.
That's right. And listen, this is the time I have time before availabilities and stuff. And I'll tell you, the weather here is just the same as it is at home. So, right in that 60 range, and people are putting on coats, being like, "It's cold." I'm like, I feel your pain,
Yeah.
But it's a great feeling out here in Los Angeles. I'm staying pretty close to the LA Convention Center where Media Row is. Been doing a lot of stuff with Radio Row and things here. I'll mention a 3-point conversion because they were kind enough to get me into the Super Bowl, but did get to shake hands with your buddy Warren Moon there, Jeff. So I thought you would dig that.
My dude, Warren Moon, one of my heroes growing up. Love the old Oilers and the run and shoot. We're so far ahead of their time, man. Gosh, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to ask you to switch gears abruptly to basketball here, since I know you're busy. But there's first of all, it's been a good week so far for basketball. And I want to start with the women because they were the ones who most recently played last night against Houston. We're down 5 at the break to the Cougars, but then came back in the third. In that fourth quarter, that defense really took over. UCF got the W, 54-44. This is at Houston, and that Houston team is tough. Ronald Huey, former UCF assistant, the head coach there. I know I keep waxing poetic about him out here, but Ronald has that team well coached. But this game was about diamond battles. Scoreless in the first half. In the second half, goes off. All right, 19 points. 19 of UCF's 35 points in the second half. I don't know what else you can possibly say about Diamond Battles that hasn't been said, but this was really her masterpiece. And it led UCF on a 35-20 second half. Her final line, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. She had 10 turnovers in the game of UCF. UCF turned the ball over 28 times compared to Houston's 19. So, and still won the game by 10, which tells me that, they kind of made it close themselves rather than Houston making it close. But, they followed up that 1 of 11 second quarter by shooting 11 of 17 in the second half. So, you not always, this, from everything that you've done. great teams aren't always great. They're just great when they have to be. And this team kind of figured out, like, real quick, like, hey, we got to figure this thing out. And they figured it out. They found a way.
I mean, figuring it out is kind of what they've been doing all season, right? Wasn't it just last podcast where Elo was lamenting, why can't we start off faster, right? Now.
Yeah, I'm like, who cares? Let's finish faster, and then you're fine,
Exactly. And getting the dub, of course, is always the goal. But, listen, it's not like they had an awful start in the first quarter. They're up 5 after that. It's that 4-point second quarter I find very interesting. And, Jeff, you mentioned, Diamond doing what she did in the second half. Earlier in the season, especially around the time where they lost to Tennessee when they came into town and all that, they would have been in bigger trouble then because of the rest of the ladies would be cold as well if Diamond didn't come up. But you got Alicia Lewis, by the way, who apparently at times, we've seen the ask of Coach A for her to be more aggressive. She's got double-digit points. Masani Kaba doing her part as one of the old heads there. Got 11 points on the game. That support to give Diamond battles the opportunity to kind of warm them up and do what Diamond does to shine like the Diamond we know, so to speak.
Oh, come on.
Listen, LA.
How many times? Okay.
It's never old, Jeff. But no, but you mentioned the turnovers. We would be remiss if we don't mention the domination on the boards on the night by UCF. I believe it's a 10 rebound disparity there.
38-28. And
the free throws, man.
Yeah.
The free throws were huge for UCF. Now, granted, Houston got to the line 16 free throws, but only hit 9 of them. If I'm coach, I know what I'm having my Houston team do in practice next week. But UCF with 13 for 17 from the charity stripe. I think that and the rebounds is what helped them recover the 4-point quarter. And moreover, I could also probably claim that was certainly a factor in the 25-point fourth quarter. I don't know what's more impressive is the Houston defense holding them to 4, or the UCF offense getting 25 in the fourth quarter. That's something I don't know that I've seen very much of this season. And good on them for pulling it off. Yeah,
that was big. So now they're 17-3, 9-1. In the conference, and having won now, 5 in a row since that loss, that head scratcher loss at Cincinnati. Because on Saturday they faced Memphis and really gave it to them. It dropped 71 points on them, beat them by 14 points. But looking at the schedule up ahead, see, this is the game that I was worried about because the next game on Sunday, while you're out in Los Angeles, rubbing elbows with football royalty. In Tampa, 2:00 before the Super Bowl, is UCF and USF at the Yuengling Center on ESPN2. And that very well could determine, barring anything weird happening, the regular season championship for this conference. And UCF obviously got USF earlier in the year. In the irony of ironies, got that really hot start to that game and ended up winning by 16 points home. But this is in Tampa.
Right.
And it's a much different thing. UCF has won only once there. And it was, I think, 4 years ago when, when it was kind of Coach Abe's serving notice victory at USF. So what are they going to have to do here against this USF team if they want to get that sweep, which UCF I don't believe has ever done, and really kind of clock the conference together here?
Man, I'll tell you, I had mentioned how I had asked Coach Abe after that Memphis game on how big this week of basketball would be for the ladies, and because these 3 games that we're talking about or I shouldn't say 3 games, 3 teams we're talking about. With UCF going to Houston, UCF traveling then to the Yuengling Center to take on the Bulls there. That whole thing is that we're talking about the 3 top teams in the conference in this situation, right? There's a lot of high power stuff in the American for the ladies doing battle here. Sweeping Houston, huge. Mm-hmm. Coach Abe wouldn't even address sweeping USF yet because it's like,
you don't want to poke that bear.
I want to focus on Houston, and that worked. Now, listen, the key to victory in that game always and will be keeping the Bulls' perimeter offense quiet, because there's going to be battles in the post. You're pardon the pun, I didn't mean diamond. There's going to be battling in the post with these teams. They both got a lot of points in the paint last time against one another. UCF, of course, was victorious, but the key to that was keeping the shooting from beyond the arc down and out of control. You know, there were a lot of shots beyond the arc missed by the Bulls last time. And they need to replicate that, right? If you ever notice when UCF loses to the Bulls in the research I've done, it's always a matter of they just get blasted from the perimeter, and when that three-pointer stat goes against UCF in a strong fashion, it's very tough for this team to combat that. They're just not built necessarily to outscore in a shootout like that.
Yeah. South Florida right now, I'm looking at the net rankings. They're 40th at 17-6. UCF is 36th at 17-3. So they're basically neck and neck right now. You get this win if you're UCF, and UCF, by the way, is the top AAC team in the net by, like I said, by that much. And then there's a pretty significant gap until you see the third team. In fact, I'm still scrolling here to actually find. There's Tulane at 77. Now, Tulane is an interesting case because they just dealt USF their second loss of the conference season.
Right.
So, like I said, even just in terms of the raw standings now, Kyle, with 5 games to go before the conference tournament, UCF could be up. If they get the win over South Florida, and fine, I'll speculate if Coach Abe doesn't want to. You're already 1 game up at 9-2 at 9-1 compared to South Florida 7-2. UCF gets that added game in hand against South Florida and hands them a third conference loss. You're basically 3 games up on them because you have the tiebreaker. So that to me is what's so important. Then what you're worried about is, well, what does SMU do? They're at 5-2. They've had some games scotched due to COVID, and UCF doesn't even play them again the rest of the year. The only game that they had scheduled against them was postponed, set for January 19th, and I don't think they're going to make that up.
Right.
So, because we haven't heard hide nor hair about that since then. So, this right now could very well clinch this whole thing clinch the regular season tournament for UCF, because after that South Florida game, 3 of the last 4 are at home.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I mentioned the point of Houston first. The next best horse in the race, so to speak, is now officially swept. That's done, right? And to your point, if they can finish the job on Super Bowl Sunday, and Drew Glukov, who will be there covering the game, doesn't continue his streak of being a bad luck charm for UCF basketball teams in the Yuengling Center.
I may just tell him to stay home. I don't know.
That has been hinted.
Watch the game on TV. It's on ESPN too.
Yeah, Megan had said maybe we should do that. But
I don't blame. Listen, Megan, if you're listening, I am taking that under consideration heavily. Believe me.
So personally, because Drew is such a good friend of mine, I want to give him a chance to redeem himself. And in the event he doesn't, well, then I get to make fun of him some more. So there you go.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, you can make fun of him. I'll just ban him. I'll prevent him from covering games in Tampa forever. Regardless, I won't even allow him to go to the rowing championships.
Goodness.
Let's see. So that's the situation. February 13th, day before Valentine's Day, 2 p.m. UCF at South Florida at the Yuengling Center. That game will be televised on ESPN2. And then the next game for UCF women's basketball is a home game Wednesday, 6 p.m. against Wichita State. They have 1 remaining road game on it at Temple, February 19th. That's next Saturday. Oh, God, that place is a house of horrors for UCF. The Temple, I don't know what it is about playing in that place, but UCF has the hardest time playing at Temple. I out of sheer curiosity, I just want to look at. Okay, UCF is 1-5 women's basketball, 1-5 all time at McGonigal Hall. Last time they beat Temple in Philly was 2018. So, and that was by 7. So, I mean, and that's the only time they've done it, going back to 2014. So, I don't know what it is about that place.
You mentioned McGonigal Hall. You need some of that Harry Potter magic to help win the day out there.
Get it up there. They lost by 3 the last time in last year. They lost by 2 in 2020. So, I mean, what are you going to do? All right, so that flips us over to the men's team, who, you know, Eric Lopez's thing is always like, this is who they are. And
well, you got to bring in the good transition point of, speaking of winning in places where we haven't won in a while.
Well, here's the thing about that is, like, UCF men's basketball had never beaten Wichita State anywhere.
Right.
Orlando, Wichita, Dallas, Connecticut, the Moon, anywhere since ever. And they finally get the win over Wichita State, 71-66 on Tuesday night to go to 14-8, 6-6 in the American. This one was the story. To me, the story of this one, Kyle, was the outside shooting. And you know, UCF kind of is in this point where they kind of live by the outside shot and they die by the outside shot. Well, in this particular game, they lived by it because they hit 11 of 29 from three-point range, which functionally matched Wichita, because Wichita was 11 of 26 from three-point range. They get Tyson Etienne, who was 2 for 13 in that first game,
right,
in Kansas. Made up for that, 26.7 rebounds. He was fantastic in that game, hit 5 threes. But the key for UCF was, again, 4 guys in double figures. So you had Mahan at 19 and 9. Great game for him. 6 of 10 from the floor. Darren Green had 17, including 5 threes of his own. Mbaka Zhang had 11 and 9 boards. And Darius Perry chipped in with 10 points of his own and 3 assists, and he crossed the 1,000-point career threshold. He scored over 500 points for UCF. Obviously, his stats from Louisville carry over. He's not a member of the UCF 1,000-point club, but he is a 1,000-point career college basketball scorer, so congratulations to him. And I thought one of the interesting things was that, you know, UCF was able to do this with as short a rotation, Kyle, as I have seen them put out there yet. Only 9 guys out there or saw time. 8 guys. I'm sorry, because I forgot that team is not a person.
Because math, yes.
Yes. Team got 2 rebounds and 3 turnovers. But yeah, they played with an 8-man rotation and got the job done and beat Wichita State for the first time in school history. Is this what you think we're going to see? Like, is Johnny Dawkins kind of settling in here? Because, you know, I'm looking into what his rotation is, because I'm looking at, like, Isaiah Adams did not play in this game.
And you know, I hate to be this guy, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea at this point. You know, and we've talked about it. I've speculated with our own stat boy Drew off air. You know, maybe we see a situation where Darius Squared is your backcourt more often, and then Mahan and Darren Green rotate that 3 spot. You know, and CJ Walker still a factor in the game down low, and then Jamil Reynolds doing his part down low as well, rotating with them, and that being kind of your main core of guys coming out. But listen, I have to give all the credit in the world to Johnny Dawkins in finding, again, remember we talked about it last week, Brandon Mahan being put in a situation to kind of advance and get back on the streak of games, because we've noted he's a streaky guy. And when he had the big game against Michigan a few weeks back, right, playing some of the other, air quotes, weaker out-of-conference teams, built a little momentum to have the huge game he did against Michigan. Now with the whole situation where they're playing USF and then Memphis, Brandon Mahan kind of building up, and boom, we're led to this 19-point performance. And as you've heard me say before, if UCF gets 4 double-digit guys in the box score, it's usually going to be for a UCF win. And that's what we got here. And lastly, I talked to somebody from 92.3 Wichita radio here, rubbing elbows with all the people. He put it best when his opinion was the best thing Wichita State does is shoot free throws. They did not get 40 times to the line in this game, only 12. Yeah. You got to put that into it, Jeff.
Yeah, I remember Ricky Council had in that first game off the bench had 31, but he shot something like 20 free throws in that. I think it was like 16 to 20 from the line or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it was amazing.
One guy shooting 20 free throws. Okay, so here's where we have to talk about like what's the goal now, right? I think an at-large bid, kiss that goodbye for now. All right, but what can UCF really control right now with however many games to go? I'm pulling up the schedule right now. I think it's 7 games left in the 6 games left in the regular season. 3 home, 3 away. One of these games is at Houston. They're also at Tulane, at Tulsa. Home games against ECU, Cincy, and Tulsa before the American Tournament. All right, so here's the story. UCF right now, 14-8, 6-6 in the league. That puts them in 7th place. Tied in the loss column with Wichita. But Wichita is 3-6. Obviously, Houston. The standings go: Houston, SMU, Memphis, Cincinnati, Temple, Tulane, UCF. All right. Right. And by the way, this is a UCF team that is 10-3 at home, 4-5 on the road. And remember, I was talking earlier, like this is who they are. What they are is a really good home team, and they struggle on the road. And that's there's a lot of teams in the country that are like that. Yeah. But
well, even the football team was like that too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, right. I mean, undefeated at home this past year. But here's the story: the American Athletic Conference basketball tournament, the top 5 teams get a bye from the first round. Okay, so I think that the trick is if you want to be able to play yourself in, you have to try and get to that 5 spot. All right. So now we mentioned the 6 teams ahead of them: Tulane, Temple, Cincy, Memphis, SMU, Houston. They have 2 games against Tulsa, which are eminently winnable because Tulsa is bad, 1-10 in the conference. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they've had some COVID issues, right?
So. Yes, they have. Of course, playing at Tulsa, you never freaking know with that. Let's see. All right, we mentioned Cincinnati. 1 game left against Cincinnati, who's 6-4, 16-7, and that game's at home. You got ECU, eminently winnable, 3-8 in the conference. All right. At Houston. Ugh. All right, let's put that one aside for now. You got the game at Tulane. So that, to me, that last weekend on the road, that could be really big because Tulane and Cincy looking at that, Tulane and Cincy are the only 2 teams that UCF plays in the remaining part of the schedule that's ahead of them. So if you can hand Tulane that 6th conference loss, you can then bump yourself up 1 more spot. If you get the game against Cincinnati, you hand them a 5th loss, and I'm looking at their schedule real quick right now to see what they have left. They're at Houston 1 more time, okay, and they're at SMU. They have Memphis. They also have Memphis and Wichita. Those are home games, but still, those are losable games for them.
Yes.
So it is not unplausible or not implausible. Implausible.
We'll go with that.
It is not implausible for UCF to be able to sneak into that 4-5 game and get themselves a bye if they can go in these last 6 games. To me, 5-1 is possible.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you
with
think?
That. But no, and 5-1 is a great call. And well, I think I said it last week. The goal is to be in a position where you can stave off as many sweeps against you as possible. Wichita State made that happen to the greatest extent. I think it is reasonably expectable, right?
Right.
So now it's about securing sweeps that are still on the board. ECU, Tulane are both possibilities of that. Tulsa, you have to win them, beat them twice, obviously. That's a very good concept. If, we don't believe that they'll even despite their loss to SMU, by the way, we don't believe that they're going to stop Houston from sweeping. That's a great team.
Never know.
But we're not. Were we betting men? We're not making it happen.
Yeah.
And I think we've postulated this before. Them pulling off what you're talking about, getting in that 4-5 game, getting the bye, anything they could do to put themselves in position to be what I think, whoever it is, the sacrificial lamb to Houston at the final of the American Conference Tournament. That's the best case scenario for them. And maybe, just maybe, if enough things break the right way, we could start having that long shot, boy, it would be great if conversation about an at-large. But, you know, a high-level NIT is a good expectation still for this UCF crew.
Yeah. And, you know, to be honest with you, in a year where you're transitioning away from the guys who were sort of your bridge guys, you know, post Taco, BJ, Aubrey. So the Darius Perry, the Brandon Mahan, like Mbake, obviously we're only getting 1 year out of him. And bridging and having those guys bring the younger fellas in under their wing. Darius Johnson, man, like,
right?
Wow. He has. We all had high expectations of him, but I don't think we all quite expected him to start realizing them so soon.
That's a good description.
You know, this dude in 20 minutes a game, you know, he's now shooting wise, not great, but you know what? He's a freshman, you know, 32%. You know, he's only 25% from 3-point range, but he's been a very good 80% foul shooter. He's averaging 5.1 a game. He's rebounding really well. He's got 58 rebounds on the year, 2.6 per game, and 46 assists, which is second on the team behind Darius Perry.
That's a big stat. Yeah. I was about to take you there because, you know, just this past game, he didn't shoot great at all from the field in general. Forget three.
Right.
But the very unique thing about any point guard is you can compensate for that by dishing the ball. The number of points he missed was fewer than the ones he made up in assists. So at the end of the game, still a positive force offensively. And we're not even talking about what he can do in perimeter defense as well.
Yeah. Now, in conference play only, his numbers have gone up, and he's averaging 8 points a game in conference play. Now, what I like about it is that even though his shooting percentage isn't high, I like the fact that he's unafraid to shoot. Yes. Like most freshmen that you see, and you know this, most guys who are, you know, at that point in their careers, true freshmen trying to figure things out, but are really talented, are so worried about like doing the right thing that they second guess themselves constantly, right?
Yeah.
Totally natural reaction to have. And I think that he was doing that a little earlier in the year. Like he was kind of afraid to shoot because he wasn't sure if that was the right thing to do. But Coach Dawkins has kind of given him the green light of if you're open, shoot the ball.
Yes.
And that's a good thing to me that I see because you have to keep the defense honest when you're a point guard. You have to give them the threat of the outside shot if you're going to try it, if you're going to enable them to, you know, if you're going to allow them to just, or rather, if you're going to entice them to guard you tight, and then you can blow by, right?
Right.
And that's something that he can do. I think when all's said and done, his UCF career is going to be, you know, to me, he's like, I mean, the similarities between him and BJ Taylor are like really frightening. Like they're both built like
BJ Taylor is a bit built
right.
and stout for a point guard. That's a good call.
Yeah, well, I mean, BJ really put on weight, like upper body weight, like his last couple years. He was built like a running back, like the last couple. And why? Because he got his best opportunities by going to the hole. Mm-hmm. And I think Darius has, you know, his lower body is really strong, and we see that in his defense. He's been so good at that. I think that, and also, I'm not saying his upper body isn't strong, but like once he gets like a really good,
challenge you on that. Yeah, he's a pretty thick dude.
He's built really strong. Once he gets like another year of like a college weight program underneath his belt, oh my god, like that guy, like we're gonna have to keep Gus away from him. You know,
listen, 2-sport athlete, baby.
Because if I was Gus, I would be like, you know, we could use somebody with that kind of physical presence.
I like running backs, and I like people who can run the football, and I think he could run the football.
Yeah, that's like, you know, if I'm Johnny, I'm like, keep him away from, you know, you stay over there. But
I'm working on my Johnny impression. I'll get you one later in the season.
But I'm really encouraged by that. I just, you know, it's Yeah, there are some. We saw Jameel Reynolds get a little bit more playing time, and I think Johnny's kind of selling in with a sort of three-headed monster between him, Mbake, and CJ. You know, he will play two of those three at any particular time, which I think is good. Very similar to what Coach Abe does, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
With Destiny Thomas and Masni Kaba and Brittany. So I think he's like kind of taking a page from Coach Abe on that.
Oh, sure. What a luxury to be able to do that. Listen, not that Jameel Reynolds plays a lot of minutes, but when he's on the floor, I've basically more often than not, I've seen him make some sort of a difference-making play, whether it's drawing a technical, like he did in against Michigan, you know, and I think that was really the moment where that team was mentally anguished. Like that put the final mental nail in the coffin for them. They started to believe they were in real trouble when Jameel made that happen. It's not on the stat sheet, but that was a real big psychological piece. And that's the little plays like that he does, taking the offensive foul. He got one of the blocks in the Wichita State game where Mbake and Walker rarely went without any. He's such a great difference maker, and I'm looking forward to see him get a bit more disciplined in his play as he moves on in his career.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I really enjoy about him is that, you know, it depends on what Coach Dawkins needs. If he needs, if he needs defense, he puts Mbake out there. But if he needs offense, you know, like a little spark down low on offense, he puts Jameel out there. And
Jameel's big too. He can play defense.
He's big, but he does, and he does. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But but the thing that I love about Jameel in particular is he's so refined offensively. His footwork is really good. And here's the other thing I like about it, especially when we talk about big men. You know, big men traditionally aren't very good foul shooters. Jameel's a 76% foul shooter, 16 to 21 on the year. So he gets to the line. He shoots 47% from the field. He's really good at he has such long arms, and he's really good at getting his shots. So, I think that I would love to see a little bit more of, you know, God willing, Isaiah Adams, kind of figures out what he's trying to figure out. But I would love to see, just out of curiosity, like what would a lineup with Darius Johnson, Ty Freeman, Isaiah Adams, Jameel Reynolds, and CJ Walker look like? Like those younger guys. That's a pretty talented little core for the next few years going forward, right?
I mean, yeah, listen, in the front court, that's a good place to start with Walker and Reynolds working together. We've already seen it look good, and it's a great thing all the way around. Yeah.
All right. So that'll do it for the men's team, at least as for right now. Their next game coming up, like we said, Tulsa, Valentine's Day. That's a makeup game, by the way. That'll be on ESPN Plus at 7 p.m. on Monday, Valentine's Day. All the restaurants are going to be swamped, so just come to the game, okay? Tell the significant other that, like, the reservation's done. Let's go to the game, hang out together there, and then we'll go out on, like, Wednesday or Friday or something, right?
I mean, you can always take off on Monday and make it a lunch. And then go to the game. You know.
It's funny. Like I told my wife, because like that game got scheduled later on, and I told her, I was like, babe, they scheduled a game for Valentine's Day. She's like, go. Like we're not gonna be able to get into any restaurants anyway, and it's gonna be freaking packed, and I don't want to deal with it.
That's beautiful.
I'm like, God, am I lucky? Did I freaking hit the jackpot with that woman? Unbelievable.
Hey, listen. You want to talk about hitting the jackpot? I'm gonna be in LA for my anniversary and on a plane back for Valentine's Day. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
Wow, man. Okay. All right. I can't. Yeah. All right.
Oh, it's not a competition. I'm just saying
it's not,
we're both lucky.
We're both very lucky. We're both very lucky. ESPN Plus Sunday. And then obviously the game at Houston Thursday at the Fertitta Center. TV is to be determined for that game, which is kind of surprising. I think they're, but I see like a double start time, 9 and 10 p.m. So I think they're just waiting and seeing on that one. But anyway, but we will be following that game or both of those games as they come through. All right. So you're last but not least, LA Super Bowl. What's your plan? If we follow the SOTG on Twitter, you're going to be sharing you rubbing elbows with which football royalty over the next few days?
Well, actually, over the past today and yesterday's stuff, you'll see the likes of D'Angelo Hall, Maurice Jones-Drew, James Jones, and of course, coach Steve Mariucci.
Mooch.
All passing through the timeline there. So look out for those, of course, on the SOTG and on Instagram as well at the SOTG, or on Facebook as the Student of the Game. So, some of that elbow. I'm not sure. You never know around here because they're just walking around. It's one of those things.
Hey, there's Boomer Esiason. Come on over.
Yeah, the 3-point got in with Tyler Lockett. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I missed that. But then I saw what time it was. It was like, oh, I was talking to Mojo, so it worked out.
Listen, any Giants guys come in, you gotta keep me informed here.
Okay? I will send you the picture directly.
Listen, a past or present.
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
You're one of those misguided souls that follows the Giants like that.
Hey, listen,
a Niner fan.
Yes, as the Niner fan, I am very much enjoying our front office and coaching hires right now. I will say.
So actually, what I can send you is Booch did talk a bit about Daniel Jones and what that looks like. I'll throw that up on there as well, so you could observe that as well, there, Jeff.
Oh, will I be happy?
I don't know.
That's not the answer I want. No,
I don't know. You won't be unhappy.
Well, the answer is like, can Brian Dable fix Daniel Jones? Anyway,
that's not the question I asked. No.
Yeah, that's the question I'm asking right now. All right, you have Super Bowl stuff to get to. Kyle Nash, the student of the game, thank you so much for spending time with us. And yeah, man, enjoy the Super Bowl. Are you going to be in SoFi Stadium for the game?
Not for the game, no, just for the weekend.
Oh.
But hey, I'm going to be watching the Super Bowl in Los Angeles. What am I worried about?
Well, where are you going to be?
I don't know that yet. I got a couple options on the table.
Like Bill Simmons' house? Like what,
I mean, I was talking to Lee Steinberg a little bit about that,
Oh. Lee Stein. So you're going to go to Lee Steinberg's house. Okay.
At the very least, the party. We'll see.
Ah, okay. All right. All right. How many of us are in the market for an agent? Anyway, let him know. All right, Kyle, thanks again, brother. It's good to see you. Enjoy LA. Enjoy the Super Bowl. What a blast. I've never covered the Super Bowl. You've covered how many now?
Well, this is my first Super Bowl.
So. Oh, this is your first? I thought you'd done there before.
I was at the Fiesta Bowl, not the Super Bowl, but ironically enough, in Arizona next year. So hey, I could make a return. Stranger things have happened.
Dude, enjoy the Super Bowl, man. Let me know what you got to tell me what's like. I hope that they're at least somebody gets you into that stadium, because I want to see, like it should be fun. It should be a fun time. I think it'll be a good game.
I do too, and listen, regardless of where I watch it, I think it'll be a pretty good matchup to watch. And
okay? I can't let you out without. I know I keep doing this. I can't let you out of here without. Tell us like what's the feeling out there? Are people like Are people like Lopez being like, oh, the Rams are going to blow them out, or is Joey Burrow like, I don't know?
See, that's the thing. Because the Burrow factor and the confidence of the Bengals squad is what it is. They're very tentatively favoring star-studded Rams. And it's not a bad play. The conversation I had with D'Angelo Hall was the piece that we talk about all the weapons that are on the Rams offense. The Rams defense similarly has a bunch of different pieces. And I think that's the part that's very interesting. Everyone who I've asked says that a defensive MVP is a very strong possibility in this game. Even wide receiver James Jones. I say that because this is an offensive mind, and his words were it's set up for Aaron Donald to be a defensive MVP, right?
Or someone from the Bengals. Let's not
correct.
Rule out what they did to Patrick Mahomes and the vaunted Kansas City Chiefs offense in that AFC Championship game.
I mean, listen, with the Bengals, the part that you're getting that no one's really talking enough about, in my opinion, is that so many of the Bengals starters this year weren't even on the roster last year. That's not supposed to work. So, yeah. But I say all that to say, because of all the spunk, for lack of a better word, that the Bengals contain, confidence, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of a missing link, an intangible. But my official prediction, I'm on record with, is 31-18 Rams.
All right. MVP, who you got?
I would love to see Aaron Donald, but it's probably going to be Stafford because quarterback. However, look out for Cooper Kupp as an MVP possibility if he goes off.
Yeah, if he catches like 11 balls for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns, like that'll
exactly.
As he seems to do quite often. I mean, Stafford's like, where's Cooper Kupp? Let me throw it in his direction, and something good will happen. All right, student of the game.
If Aaron Donald gets 3 sacks or more, look out for that too.
That's true too. Yeah, especially if they come up big. All right, Kyle, enjoy the Super Bowl, man. Have fun in LA.
Hey, even from LA, an honor, joy, and privilege. But until next time, class dismissed.
And we will be right back on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Don't go away.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon here with you, along with Bryson Turner, as we take a look at some of the other news. Of course, Eric is not here because he's covering softball. It's opening night. We're recording this on Thursday. Opening night for UCF softball tonight. They're playing number 12 Georgia at the UCF softball complex. He's doing that game. You can get his full preview of UCF softball from beginning to end, also in our podcast feed this week. He interviewed Cindy Ball Malone. He interviewed Denali Shoppacher. He interviewed Gianna Mancha. We have UCF softball covered like nobody else. So make sure you take a look at that. All right, Bryson. Busy week for you this week because not only were you covering basketball as well, helping us out with that, and truly appreciate that, but you also keep your eye.
I'm glad I was able to hold down the fort for Kyle.
Yeah, well, he's in the sewer. Yeah,
it was a good game too. It was a good game.
We've got or in addition to basketball, we had plenty of tennis as the tennis season continues. Men's tennis right now 1-5. They lost on Sunday at NC State, and they're kind of struggling right now. Bryson, they haven't won they haven't won a single match within the dual match season since January 30th, since the Louisville match. They got swept by Stanford, swept by Wake, swept by Wake Forest. I know, swept by NC State. I know those are 3 ranked teams, but is everything all right over there?
Well, this team started out ranked number 11 in the country, and I think that considering their performance against ranked teams so far, it looks like that was a vast overratedness of that starting rank there. That said, Leighton Cronhay and Bogdan Pavel did make the new doubles ranking. They're ranked number 41 in the country, so there's some chemistry going on there. And Trey Hildebrand and Cooper White, who are a brand new pair. Cooper White's a freshman. They took down then number 19 ranked Wake Forest pair, Jacob Schneitner and Sidham Banthia. So it seemed, and so I break this down a bit in my more in-depth tennis breakdown. But the gist of this is that this team has a lot of faces in new places. When it comes to tennis, Trey Hildebrand is facing a level of opponent that he didn't really face last season. So he's got to get used to that. He was ranked number 16 going into the fall. He's number 50 now. And with the doubles pairs, they're trying some new stuff, just like the women's team are. And with the court 3 pairing, which usually has Alan Rubio and Kento Yamada, who are the 2 seniors on the team, they haven't really had a good start. That means that with their experimentation with the top of the order, with Leighton Cronhay and Bogdan Pavel doing a new pairing, and Trey Hildebrand and Cooper White, and with that, and them trying to kind of find themselves, it means that it's going to be a coin toss. I mean, I think that the fact that Hildebrand and Cooper White beat a ranked team like they did shows promise there. The problem is that they just need to be able to, Cronhay, Pavel, and Hildebrand and White need to be able to get on point at the same time, unless Rubio and Yamada can improve. So I think this is just a team that we need some development time with. And the good news is that the core pieces like Hildebrand, Pavel, Cronhay, all that, they still have another year of eligibility to go. So I think this is kind of like football, where we kind of need to be a little more patient with them, and we'll see how it goes. Besides, Roddick's teams have known to have some slow starts. This is a bit of a slower start than past years, but we'll see what they do if they're able to as we go through the rest of the season, which still has some tough competition. So if anything, they're going to be improving their game and honing their craft against some of the top tennis teams in the country.
Well, it doesn't get any easier this weekend. They're traveling to Florida State on Friday, and then they're going to number 14 Texas on Sunday. So
that Florida State game, in my opinion, is the make or break, because I can understand maybe you losing to ranked teams because you're kind of finding yourself. But when you're losing to teams, like they beat Louisville, for example, who was unranked. So I think the standard is if they're not ranked, then you better beat them.
Well, they after that Texas match, I think you're right about this weekend that this is kind of like, okay, where are they going to see themselves after that? Because after Texas, they have a 12-day break before they play at Ohio State and Columbus. So at the very least, you will have been through the first 6-8 matches, and now at least you hopefully you have enough data, right, to be able to figure out where you want to go from there. So we'll be keeping an eye on them. Women's tennis, on the other hand, they're 3-2 right now. They got a sweep over Georgia Southern after they had those back-to-back losses to Auburn and Virginia. Again, 2 ranked teams. Got the win against Georgia Southern at home last Sunday. They travel to LSU a week from Friday, February 18th. So they have a pretty tough stretch there where they go at LSU, at Miami, at FIU before they're back home February 25th against Oklahoma. So less concern in that neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, I would say so. For one, they haven't lost one against a ranked team either, but I do think that the hardest parts of this women's team schedule comes a little bit later in the season. At the very least, they're in a more stable position doubles wise, because even with the new pairings that they've been using, for example, Noelle Saidanova, she went 4-0 in her singles and doubles matches this weekend, including 2 doubles matches with different doubles partners, with Nandini Sharma and Nandini Sharma and Nyjah Bay Christians. And Sophia Biole also got paired with a new doubles partner, and sophomore Lisa Leslie. Like we've talked about this back when we spoke to women's tennis head coach Brian Kanyeko, that this team is because of the late arrival of freshman Biole and Saidanova, that they were going to have to experiment a little bit with the doubles pairs to see what worked and what didn't. And the good news is that those experiments are working. This is a really good problem for Kanyeko to have, where it looks like that some success can be attained no matter who they pair up with, which is good to see. The concerns that I find are in the singles play, and maybe it's just a bit of a slow start, but Evgenia Levashova and Valeria Saleva got their first singles wins of the season over the weekend. Bit of a slow start for them. They both, all of them dropped in the singles rankings, along with Marie Mattel. Marie Mattel, off the top of my head, I cannot remember because it's all 3 of them, but they did drop from where they started in the beginning of the season. So it's a bit of a slow start, but they're still ranked number 18. There was no new ranking, so they're still ranked number 18 in the country. And I think that it's another one of those things where the sample size is a little small, and we still kind of need to give them some time to see where they kind of are right now. The good news is that Kanyeko talked about how they valued their doubles and doubles play, and it looks like their doubles play is going very well. And I think that that's certainly some good progress to see from this team.
All right. How about women's golf right now? So they finished up their first. We talked about with Emily Marin before. They finished their first tournament of the spring at home. A little bit of weather problems that kind of got in the way over the weekend, but they finished up the UCF Challenge in 11th place. Probably not the ideal finish, but a couple of bright spots, or one particular bright spot was Pat Pitton, who finished tied for 4th in the individual. Wake Forest won the team competition, and Carolina Lopez Chikara of Wake was the individual medalist. She was the only golfer to shoot under 200 in the 3-round tournament. But Pitton, I think you were telling me, I remember earlier, she suffered an injury in the fall that was a little bit concerning, but she seems to have returned to form just fine.
It seems so. She withdrew from the final fall tournament. I believe it was due to injury, if I remember incorrectly. And it looks like she's doing well. And I'm telling you what, when I looked at the individual women's golf rankings, I saw that Camille Benzet was the highest ranked UCF singles player. And no disrespect to her, I think she is a very good player. But when you look at the body of work from the fall and now this, I really think Tanrata Pitton is the golfer to watch on this team. She just shot 207. That's the fourth lowest 54-hole score in program history. And that's not even the only top 5 54-hole score Pitton has. She shot 200 back in the fall in the EV Odom Invitational, which is the lowest 54-hole score in program history. So Tanrata Pitton, I think, as far as an individual goes, is a really big bright spot for this team. And then I also want to be able to highlight Zoe Allo, who is a freshman, by the way. She ended up also shooting under par at 214. She's tied for 40th, but shooting under par is usually a good sign when it comes to a golfer's development, especially when it comes to being a freshman. So I'm very excited to see what Zoe Allo is capable of. Victoria Levi also made her Knights debut. She ended up playing as an individual, didn't really have a good weekend, but it's nice to see her make her debut and kind of begin her development. And I think the biggest thing for this team is that they need to be able to get on the same page, because with golf, you're only as good as maybe your second weakest player, because in golf team play, your fifth player's score does not count. So you're only about as good as your second highest scoring player, because golf lowest score wins. So it's all about the rest of the team kind of being able to make up ground, because Pitton can't carry this team on her own. And Allo, she's still developing. We can't expect, a freshman to, have to carry anything. Like, let her, learn, let her develop. And it's great to see that she's developing well here by the looks of it, but we can't expect her to do this every time. So going forward, I'm very excited to see what Pitton does from an individual standpoint, but from a team standpoint, it's the players like Banzette and Collado and Baker and Lamar, whoever Emily Marin decides to put in the lineup, they need to be able to kind of keep up with Pitton, so that way their team score will be able to get up there with some of the best of them.
I thought was interesting about Zoe, final round. She kind of went through at even par, or let me look through it. Yeah. She went out in even par. She was in her back nine to finish the tournament. After she had a rough front nine in the final round, she finished with 3 birdies in the back nine. And I think you're right. That's the kind of development that you want to see. Like, finish. It's kind of like in basketball where when you're warming up, like, you don't end on a miss. You always want to make your last shot in warmups, and I think that was the case with Zoe. Is she finished strong, and that can always push you forward towards the next one. Track and field. All right. UCF competed at the Charlie Thomas Invitational, which another indoor event that they're in College Station, home of Texas A&M, and really there were 2 big-time performances. The first one on day one was Brittany Floyd, who finished in 4th in the pentathlon, but that really wasn't the story. The story was she set a new school record in the pentathlon. Broke her own record. Yeah, broke her own record.
2 weeks later, and she did it again.
Yeah, 3,865 points in the pentathlon. So that's pretty encouraging, especially as they move forward, that she's improving. And then also, obviously, Renaya Jones, who is named the AAC's Track Athlete of the Week. Surprise, surprise. Finished first in the 60 meters with a 7.23.
Personal best again.
Another personal best. 0.1 of a second faster than her prelims. Renaya is just Renaya, man. She's a star. She's just going to keep getting better.
Well, what's big is that, and I mentioned this, she's one, I'll do a teeny spoiler. She's one of 2 Nights of the Week that I put in my Nightcap article, but she actually did not make the final in the 60-meter hurdle, which as we've seen before, her big thing was the 100-meter hurdles, where she competed at NCAA championships and the Olympic trials. So to see her in the 60-meter hurdle not making the final, I don't know if that Coach Dana Boone tweeted about how she was able to rebound and readjust, and I would agree with that here. The fact that she missed the final in the 60-meter hurdle and then go out and win the 60-meter dash, what just perfect job on her part, and a nice recovery on her part as well. And then she was also joined on the podium by Asia Wilson, who finished third in the 60-meter dash. And don't worry about the 60-meter hurdle, because Kayla Harris was able to capture the bronze there. So yeah, I love watching. I if you can't tell by now, I love watching this team. And this and Renaya Jones may be the headliner, but don't be mistaken into thinking that she's the only encouraging sign on this team, because this team has a lot of facets to it that are very intriguing to watch. And you can look, I linked the full results of every event in my nightcap article, so you can see it for yourself, because even for us, there's just so much that we can't really fit it all into one thing. So if you want to check out the results for yourself, the links are there. But when it comes down to it, the headline, even the top of this team, there's plenty to talk about there. Renaya Jones being chief among them.
The other thing I wanted to talk, can't get out of here without talking a little bit about volleyball. We had the spring National Signing Day, which is kind of because of football, like it kind of flies under the radar now because of the early signing period. But a lot of other sports signing, including volleyball, and 3 new signees for UCF, one of which we already talked about, which is Emily Wilson, the transfer from San Diego, the 6'3" outside hitter. But 2 more that UCF added that we wanted to talk about. Emma Trulick, who is a freshman. She's an outside hitter and defensive specialist from Forest High School in Ocala. She comes in 3-time team MVP. And Coach Dagenet said, you look at her height and say, this is his quote, she's 5'8". So, you look at her height and say, well, this is what Todd Dagenet says. Well, there's no way she can play power 5 in the front row. But I think a coach looking at her that way would make a mistake, because she's such an effective back row attacker and scores points. She plays an unnamed position in volleyball. So it's kind of interesting that she's kind of a really versatile defensive specialist, who can, if she's not wearing a libero jersey, can actually attack from the back row, like Todd was saying. And then also, I thought the one I was really excited about was Abby Hansen, a middle blocker from Phoenix, Arizona, who comes to UCF from the University of Oregon. She spent 3 years at Oregon. She's 6'4", and was a real key. She was the Oregon Invitational All-Tournament team member. Was a Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week one week. It's a really good sign for UCF as volleyball heads into the Big 12, of course, with everybody else, that now they're being seen as a destination for players, who just couldn't get into a rotation on a Pac-12 school. Like, I never would have thought that you'd ever see, Pac-12 level athletes coming to UCF, but here we are.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would think so. And also, this is also now the second middle blocker on the team that arrived to UCF because of transfer. Claudia Dillon transferred here from Missouri a little bit ago.
SEC
and I think
too.
This is right. So this is a good addition because the Knights are actually pretty old when it comes to middle blocker. That Narissa Moravec is gone. Catherine Weselich transferred. Amari Williams was injured last year, but she's a fifth. She was a fifth-year senior, so we'll see what happens with her. But the only middle blocker that we know that we really can nail down is Claudia Dillon. And so pairing her up with Abby Hansen, I think in a middle blocker position is definitely good to have. It's a good way to fill that hole. And then as far as Emily Wilson, I think this is one of those that we can see that Dagenais is definitely preparing for the McKenna Melville succession plan, because McKenna Melville's entering her final year of eligibility. As much as we all love to hate it, she'll have to run out of eligibility sometime. But the good news is that Dagenais has some people there. And if we know anything about Melville, she's a great mentor and coaching figure. And so whether it's Heidi Bondi, who's already here, or whether it's Emily Wilson who's coming in, I do think that the team is definitely knowledgeable of the fact that there's going to be life after McKenna when it comes to that position, and they're bringing Wilson in now will allow Melville to be able to kind of mentor her a little bit, so that way truly whoever is more worthy of starting, whether it is Wilson or Bondi, or they get switched in every now and again, both teams will both players will be the most prepared possible to do that.
Boy, this is shaping up to be a really good. If you could imagine the 4-time defending conference champion UCF volleyball Knights improving, getting better.
Well, we got to remember,
did.
losing Narissa Moravec and Anne-Marie Watson is definitely no slouch, I would argue. So I think that I would argue it's more of a reloading, if anything. But that's still, some of the best champs, the best teams, they don't rebuild, they reload. And that's what UCF has done. You talk about how Abby Hansen's transferring here from the Pac-12, and I think that can kind of speak to the fact that, I remember talking to assistant head coach Jenny Maurer about it, and she talked about how when she was brought on with Coach Dagenais, she was talking about how they wanted to build a volleyball power here, and I think
they're on their way.
They are on their way to doing that.
It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if you saw this team compete in volleyball immediately in the Big 12 once it gets to that point. There's kind of this ongoing discussion, and thought about who's going to be the first UCF team to win a Big 12 championship. My money's on volleyball, especially if UCF enters that league. If there's no crossover between Texas and UCF, I think if Texas stays in the league the first year UCF's in there, Texas is going to be the obvious favorite. But nothing against UCF, it could have a very good year and just not, and Texas is just that good. But I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised in the least if UCF volleyball is the first UCF team to win a Big 12 title.
I think that would be a solid thing. If there's no crossover between Texas and UCF, I also will be willing to keep an eye on track and field for some individual stuff, because Texas obviously is a great track and field program with people like Chanel Percent.
And Houston too, don't forget too. They're coming in there too. That's going to be, Houston is going to be loaded in track and field when they get to the Big 12. Oh my God. All right.
It was great to cover men's basketball, but men's basketball for a spell. But I'm telling you what, sometimes it's these Olympic sports that are where it's at sometimes.
I know this is what I've been telling you all this time. It's that's where this is where you can find some really fun stuff. And now with softball starting up in the spring, baseball's coming around. You're going to have a baseball preview this week. Eric's got the softball preview up. This is going to be fun. We got a lot coming up over the next few weeks, next few days too. Of course, softball opener Thursday against Georgia. They also play Minnesota on Friday as well to start the season. Let's see. Just looking up through the schedule. Obviously we talked about men's tennis and whatnot. But this is going to be a busy weekend. Of course, Fresno State track and field. Yep.
Track and field returning to Clemson. This is going to be, I believe, their final meet before the American Championship. So this is their last chance to really hone themselves before it's on with the American Indoor Championships. So looking forward to that.
And then, of course, don't forget women's basketball at South Florida on Super Bowl Sunday at 2 p.m. Men's tennis at number 14 Texas, 1 p.m. on Sunday. Men's basketball against Tulsa at home, 7 p.m. on Valentine's Day. That's a makeup game, ESPN+. Bryson Turner. It's Bryson Turner on Twitter. Thanks for helping us out. Thanks, as always, for your hard work. And hang in there. I guess we'll see. What's the next event that you're going to be heading to?
I am actually planning to go to softball to assist with Eric Lopez on that. So I wanted to get myself.
You going tonight?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'm planning on doing that. So I'll be there. Joining Eric. I'll follow while he's in the broadcast booth. I'll be following on Twitter. So it's Bryson Turner. It'll be up there. And it'll be fun. Georgia's a team that's kind of in the family. My uncle goes there, and my dad is a big Georgia fan. So excited to see a team that I've grown up with, and my current school that I attend face off there. So
here's to their disappointment. They already won football. That's enough. All right, thanks, Bryson.
Very
you
true.
can follow Bryson at It's Bryson Turner. Thanks again to Kyle Nash for joining us. Short show because you have the softball preview. That also took up, that also is in your feed right now. Make sure you follow Kyle Nash as well. You can follow Kyle at the SOTG for the student of the game, the SOTG. Follow me at Jeff_Sharon. You can follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo, and for where he's locked in on softball now. So it's going to be the season begin. Make sure you check out that preview. Lots of great insight from Coach Ball Malone, Denali Shophacker, and Gianna Mancha as well. You can follow us collectively at UCF Banneret_SBN. UCF Banneret_SBN. Also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And of course, blackandgoldbanneret.com, your home for UCF sports on the SB Nation Network. That'll do it for us. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast as well, wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, or if you're an Android user, wherever you get your podcast there as well. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Enjoy the weekend. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody.